Welcome to the Empowerment Shift podcast. I'm your host, Boyan Dobrev, and I'm here to help you unlock greater levels of awareness, clarity, and empowerment. In each episode, we'll dive into inspiring stories and higher perspectives to help you break free from limiting beliefs so you can navigate challenges with grace and step into a life of alignment and empowerment. Ready to make the shift? Let's get started. One of the biggest illusions we live under is the illusion of guilt. And in this video, I want to poke some holes through that illusion so that if you're suffering with guilt, you're going to start to feel better, and it will help the world if we have less people feeling guilty. But before I get into it, I would just like to ask if you could hit the like and the subscribe button. It's taking me time, energy, and money to make and edit these videos, and I have no sponsors or ads. So just a sign of appreciation and support would be greatly appreciated. So let's get into it. I was recently having an online session with a client of mine in Germany, and she's in the process of moving to Mallorca. First of all, she's spending more and more time here, and at some point she wants to live here permanently with her boyfriend. Her parents have a house here, so it's easy for her, it makes sense. And someone that she knew and respected said, okay, that's great, but I think it would be also good if you can think of a way of giving back to the local community. And the reason for that is, well, Mallorca has already gotten so expensive because of all the foreigners, and the locals aren't very happy about that. And so maybe you should find a way of, contributing, right? And so she was telling me about this and how, how it must feel for the locals and so on and so on. And I asked her, how are you feeling right now? And she said, kind of heavy. And I go, okay. And do you remember what I told you about how our soul communicates to us? And she was like, through our feelings? And I say, yeah. So basically, when we feel light and uplifted and joyful, that is our soul saying to us, this thing is true. It resonates. Whereas if something feels heavy or we feel contracted and dense, that's our soul communicating to us that is not true. That's an illusion. So for example, if somebody gives you a compliment, you feel nice, that's your soul saying this is true. If somebody says something mean to you, or they say you're ugly, you're this, you're that, and you feel bad, that's your soul saying this is not true. So in the same way, she was talking about this situation with Mallorca, all the foreigners here, how it has driven the prices of real estate, how the locals are struggling to have cheap rent and so on. And I said, okay, so what I'm actually sensing is a feeling of guilt, right? That you will be part of the problem of foreigners moving to Mallorca. And I said, guilt is a language that we learn to speak and understand if people in our lives have made us feel guilty for things in the past. It's like we develop these receptors, and just like the language of English, Spanish, French, and so on, there's the language of guilt and shame. But the truth is that we're all doing our best and we're all living our life the way we think is best for us. And we all get to have the life of our dreams. It's not about deserving. There's nothing she needs to do in order to deserve living in Mallorca. She doesn't have to give back to the community or be involved in a certain way unless she wants to. There's no shoulds. That's just a belief. She gets to help if she wants to, but maybe that's not going to be straight away. Maybe it's not going to be in the first 5 years. Maybe it's going to be later, or maybe not at all. But she gets to be here because the world is our playground. It is for everybody. And it's also about letting other people be themselves, letting them have their opinion, letting them complain and blame and judge, and let her be okay with that. Let her accept that. How freeing would it be if we were to just let people be, let them complain, let them have their thoughts, their criticism, their judgments, and we continue our life with our best intentions. And so there's no guilt. There's no need for guilt. She can come here. She can spend as much time as she wants. She can do her work. She provides value through her work. And whether that value is to foreigners or locals or both, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And those locals, their soul, as I mentioned in the previous video about the soul plan, their soul is maybe learning some lessons here, or at least it has the opportunity to learn lessons. Maybe it's the lesson of compassion and kindness towards foreigners. Maybe it is tolerance. Maybe it is the lesson of ownership. Like if that local is unhappy with the way things have moved and evolved on Mallorca and things are more expensive or there's too many foreigners, well, maybe they have to take ownership, either by working with foreigners and having a business that deals with them so that they can benefit from this increase of abundance that has come to the island thanks to the foreigners, or move to another place. Be like, this is no longer my Mallorca, this is no longer my island, I don't feel good here, I'm gonna see if there's a better place for me. But so whatever the locals or the other person is learning is none of our business. What is our business is what we do with our lives, how aligned we are with our dreams, with our visions, and then just go after that. Because the more people care less about what other people think, the better for the world. The more people live in alignment with what's in their heart, the better for the world. So drop the illusion of guilt and know that there's nothing you need to deserve in order to have the life of your dreams. You get to have the life of your dreams, period. And then on a side note, coming to the topic of guilt from a different perspective, let's say you feel guilty for something that you did in the past to someone else. What I want to say in that case is, in that moment, you did the best according to your level of awareness, your level of consciousness, your experiences, your childhood, your beliefs, your programs. All of that has made you act or behave a certain way. And so even though you may have done something bad or horrible to someone else, know that that's the best you could at the time. And try to come to terms with that. Practice the virtue of acceptance. Acceptance for yourself, understanding, compassion, kindness towards yourself. And just let go of the guilt, because the guilt is not serving you nor the other person. And know that you can use that, you can transform it into wisdom so that you no longer need to hold on to the guilt in order to prevent something like this from happening again in the future. But you can prevent it through the awareness and the wisdom that you have gained from it. Guilt is an illusion. You don't need to live with guilt. Drop the guilt and life is gonna get so much better. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for tuning in to the Empowerment Shift podcast. Remember, every shift in awareness is a foundation for powerful change. If this episode sparked something within you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend who could use a shift too. And please leave a review so we can spread this message of empowerment further. Together, let's create a ripple effect of transformation. Until next time, keep making those shifts, stay connected, and stay empowered.